Well, it's exactly the kind of cold and wet that it sucks to be out in. Let's make some lures. Well, welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's been a little while. It's been a pretty eventful winter, and now we're in that horrible early spring, late winter time of year when everybody's got a cold.
I'm dying.
You're not dying, you just can't think of anything good to do.
And I have always said that this time of year, when it is the most miserable outside, the coldest and the wettest and the windiest and the most abysmal, this is the best time to learn how to do new, cool stuff indoors, which you then later take outdoors. Now lately, my creative juices have been provoked by the rising cost of inline spinner lures. I don't know if you guys have been pricing these, but like a standard MEPS, number 2, standard MEPS number 3, it is not uncommon for those things to be going for $6, $7, $8, $9.
Wow, this is pretty crowded. Yeah, well, it's $9 beer night.
$9! Well, makes me feel bad just thinking about it. Oh, you know how many of those inline spinners I lose? Having that treble hook hanging off the back, dragging it through, whatever I'm dragging it through, it's going to get snagged on something. Now, I figured there had to be some kind of way that I could get that lure's productivity without spending that kind of money. So I started scouring the internet and trying to find out, just like you guys are doing now, how do you make your own inline spinners? Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, I will be the first to admit that, while I've only been doing this for a small period of time, I have gone a little bit crazy. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Each one of these boxes is populated with doodads and trinkets that I'm going to use to make these lures here with you today. There is some cost to trying to do this. If I had to take a guess, just to get started out, you'd probably want to invest somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100. That's going to get you the following. About 30 feet of stainless steel wire. This is number 15, rated for 240 pounds. This has been, of all the different wires that I've used so far, the best general purpose. It's pretty easy to work with, and I'm confident that it's not going to rust. You're going to need various flash sheets, right? Colors, stuff. We'll talk more about that in a minute. You're going to need to buy treble hooks, right? In this case, we are working with Gamakatzu size 6. You get 12 of these, about $10 for a box. You're going to need beads of various types, colorations, silver, red, gold, that kind of stuff. These beads are 1/4 inch in diameter, solid brass. You always want to get the solid brass ones. The color beads, it doesn't really matter whether they're solid, hollow, plastic, acrylic. You're just going for a look. It's an aesthetic. The brass beads are going to be what gives you the weight. You're going to need some kind of fly tying vise. I want to say this one's about $15. You can get them even cheaper than that. This one is not particularly fancy. It doesn't rotate or do any of that other good stuff. It's about as basic as it gets, but truly invaluable. You're also going to want to get some wax thread, right? And a bobbin. This is one that has a flanged end, which means, I don't know how well you can see it, but if you zoom in, you see how it flanges out a little bit? I have found that really helps with making sure that your line doesn't break as you're doing all of your wraps. You can get some pretty serious tension in there, and that can cause problems. Wire cutters, wire bending pliers available at a craft store, super glue. This is extra long time control. I found this has been really, really good. I can kind of slather this on, and I can just spread it on with my finger, and I have all the time in the world to work with it, but not too much time, which is great. You might want a small little pair of scissors or something like this. And last but not least, you're going to need an assortment of blades. And then there's, clevises, things like this, right? We'll go through and I'll provide a link to all of this stuff, a basic list, starter list for exactly what it is that we're going to build. And once we get it built, we will take it out on the water and hopefully demonstrate that it worked. What color do we want to do? I don't know. What do you think? What are we in the mood for? Red and silver, chartreuse and gold. It is tough to say. So many options. Take a look at this box. Yep, this is my collection. This all gets built up over time. First, let's just do a deep cup Colorado blade. That's brass colored, so let's go ahead and make the whole thing brass. We'll grab a couple of these 1/4 inch solid brass beads. Put those right there. It's awful handy to have like a little cup like this to set stuff off to the side. I like to use a very, very tiny bead. I'll show you what this is for in a second. What color? What color? Let's go chartreuse. And just for the look of it, let's have a black bead in there too. Is that it good? Yeah. As far as the clevises are concerned, I've got an assortment of them. I've got some for bigger blades. The big thing is to make sure that the hole in those clevises matches up with the diameter of your wire. You do not want that to be too snug. In this case, since we're using that number 15 wire, I've confirmed that these are good. Whatever I post in the link, you can be sure will be good as well. Chuck that clevis in there. Do I need anything else? I do not think that I do. I don't think do I want an eyeball? Should we have an eyeball? No, we don't need an eyeball. So we got all of our beads and blades and clevises and all that stuff picked out. We know what gauge wire we're using. We need to choose what our skirt material is going to look like. Seeing as how we're going with gold and green, why not gold and green, maybe a little touch of red in the tail. Now for this, there's a whole bunch of different products that you can use, and I wish somebody had explained this to me, right? Like I went out and I was like, hey, chartreuse, that'll be fine. This is basically like fur material, artificial fur. This stuff is cool, but it will really expand after you get it wet. And once those fibers start soaking stuff up, the tail of your lure becomes very puffy, and I want to avoid that. I want it nice and clean. So this right here, this is scales and tails. This is really, really good stuff. You can see that it's got some built-in flash, very, very small fibers. That's good. We're not in the market for that either because we're going small. Let's get all this out of the way. Here we go. This is what we're looking for. Crystal flash. We're going to grab that. What else do we have here? Oh my, I got a couple different options here. That could be very nice. Let's use that. Do I have any red? Do I have any red? I don't have any red, but I have some pink. We'll throw that on there. Now, believe it or not, the most time-consuming part of this build is actually dressing your treble hook, right? So what do we have here? We have this is a number 6 Gamakatzu. It's not painted or anything like that. Let me figure out how to mount this camera so that you can watch what I'm doing on the vise. All right, hopefully this is all framed properly. If it's not, I'm going to regret it, but we start out by holding the hook by the shank. Place that into the vise. That's not tight enough. Snug that up a bit. Doesn't have to be crazy tight, just tight enough that it's going to hold it. And then we just put down a layer of thread. Super simple. Just enough that it's going to create friction and give your glue something to hold on to down the road when you're ready for it to happen. Nice solid layer. And just let that hang. This is where it's nice to have something small. You can get right in there. Snip that. Okay, so the first thing you want to be thinking about is what do you want your inside color to be? I'm thinking that pink is going to be the way to go. Just like a good steak, you want it to be just a little bit pink in the middle. Now for this stuff, you don't need much at all. I'm going to start out by grabbing just 2 strands. Just 2. Pull them out. Make sure they're about even. Fold them in half. And this does not have to be perfect. You're going to cut it. Now you're going to combine them together. You're going to fold them in half again because we're dealing with a small hook here. And we're going to cut it one more again. Cool. Now for this, you want to put enough material below the hook barbs that it's going to give you the skirting that you want, but you don't want to go too crazy with it. And again, since this is going to be the middle, it's not super precise. Do a couple of loose wraps, just loose. Just enough to hold these in place so that you can adjust them and make sure that they are where you want them to be. That's about right. Now give that a little snug. Not too much. A few more wraps. So I got material going this way, I got material going that way. We're going to lock all this in just a minute. Grab the eyelet, rotate, And we're going to repeat that process 2 more times. Now that we've gone to the third set of wraps, we're going to go all the way up underneath the eyelet. Then we're going to grab a clump and we're going to fold it down. Give it a couple of nice little snug wraps here. And guess what? We're going to rotate it again. You can see once you get pretty good at this, it can go pretty fast. And like I said, this is the hardest part, is doing this. Well, it's the most time consuming anyway. Rotate it one more time. Alrighty. And we'll go ahead and finish this off. And by folding these over and then wrapping over them, you make it almost impossible for those little filaments of crystal flash to come unlocked. All right, now we'll let that hang out. Okay, so pink is out of the way. We've established the center of this skirting. Now, I think we're going to go with this rainbow color here, and then we'll finish it off with gold on the outside. My wife likes to make fun of me. Are you going to go down and do some arts and crafts? Yes, I am. That is exactly what I'm doing. Oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. Make sure everything is spread evenly. Get as close to the eyelet as you can. Right underneath the eyelet, just like that. Now, why am I missing some of these? Let's go around it. Oh, it's because it's going down. All right. There we go. And again, I'm not super worried about this, but this is where I'm going to hit it with just a little dab of glue. We'll grab some of these. Try to make it about even. Again, this ain't rocket surgery. It is an art, not a science. All right, bring that all back. We'll just do, you get out of the way there. A couple of wraps here to hold that. We'll tighten all this up and make it look good here in a second. Let's rotate. Oh yeah, this is going to be a good one. That up. Come back that away. Start low. And this is where you want your wraps to look nice and neat. Where every wrap touches the one that came before it. Now I'm using black here because it happened to be the color that I already had on the bobbin. You could use red, green, all the different colors of the rainbow, right? They're all available to you. And all I'm looking to do is make sure that I am evenly covering all of that up so it is nice and secure. And that glue dab that I put on there, because it is slow curing, is going to take, it's going to really seep in to all those little filaments. And absolutely secure all of this. Now, what I'm doing here is overkill. You don't need all these wraps, but I want them, so I'm doing them. And when it's time to finish it up, we'll just do a whip, right? Which is where you grab this, you make a little loop with a twist in it, feed that loop over the eyelet of the hook as best you can. Make sure it doesn't come back off. I'm not great at it. And pull it snug. We'll do another one just for good measure. And as long as that's going into that wet glue, I don't think you ever have anything to worry about as far as it coming undone. Trim off your excess. Now, here's the thing that I do, and I have yet to have anybody show me or tell me that it is a bad idea. And it is to use a little bit of this clear top coat nail polish to seal the entire thing up nice and neat. It just seems to me like it's a good idea. Some folks will use 5-minute epoxy on really big lures. Like when I was growing up, you would commonly see 5-minute epoxy get used for sealing up big musky, big pike lures. Haven't seen a whole lot of that here, but again, this one isn't that big, and it's not such a big deal to redo this if we ever find ourselves in a position where we have to do it. All right, so now that that is done, we can get a hold of the hook. It doesn't take long, but look at that. So now we got to make the body of the lure. Again, we're going to be using this 240-pound number 15 stainless steel wire from Toothproof. There's really not a whole lot to this. The biggest trick that I've learned has to do with how to get good loops on the end of your wire, and I'll show you what I do to make that happen. But you probably want a chunk, I don't know, 7 inches, somewhere in that ballpark. Cut it off, put this away. You don't need it anymore. All right, so here is your opening wire. You're gonna need your wire bending pliers. Here's the secret. Okay, this is the stuff that you could spend hours working on, right? You take your wire bending pliers, give yourself about 1.5 inches, however much you think you need to really be able to wrench on this thing with your thumb, right? And that's where you're going to set your point. You're going to bend this about like that. Doesn't have to be much, just enough. Call that 45 degrees. Okay? Now, without changing the position of your pliers, you're now going to go up over the top. Like so. Do you see that? All right, now you're going to shift your grip so that you are now perpendicular to the main line. And what that's going to allow you to do is finish this out so you have a nice round eye. Here's the grip, right? You're going to grab that eye with your pliers. You're going to take this thing with your thumb and you're going to start twisting it, twisting it, twisting it. And as you're twisting, you're going to push that tag end as hard as you can up against the coil that you're creating. And that way you're going to get these nice tight wraps. I usually like to go 2 or 3, right? And you end up with something that looks just like that. No complaints there, right? You gotta take off that little excess. I like to use these little flush cut nips, and be careful with those cutoffs because they're going to be sharp. If you're doing this someplace where you don't want to be stepping on a needle, make sure that you're keeping track of where these things go because they will fly. There we go. Just like that. All right, next step. We go to our stuff that we grabbed here in the cup. First thing we're going to grab is our clevis. Now, when you're looking at your clevis, you see that you got that U shape. You want to make sure the legs on that U are parallel to each other because you don't want resistance. And then you're just going to feed one leg through that U, just like that. Don't worry about the other one. Grab your blade. Make sure that you're putting your blade on in such a way that the cupped part of it will face the body of the lure once the beads are on. I'll show you that in a second. And you're going to grab one teeny tiny bead. I want to say this is a 2.5 millimeter. The smaller the better, because what you're looking to do is reduce overall friction, and it should look something like that. Now we start thinking about color. I'm going to use pink here since I use pink on the tail. Now, do I want to go green first or do I want to go pink? These choices are hard. Let's go green first. Why not? Green, brass bead, like that. You know what? Let's get crazy. I'll put a black in the middle, another brass bead, another pink. Just like that. Now we're just going to finish this up. Grab your pliers. What you're going to want to do is go, I don't know, about 1 centimeter. Doesn't have to be a lot, but you're going to repeat that process. You're going to do your bend till you get about to 45 degrees, right? Then you're going to come over the top, shift your grip. I use my thumb to stabilize the lure, and now what I've got is that loop right there. I have not twisted anything on yet because I got to put my hook on, which is drying. Oops. Now all you got to do is feed this on, just like that. You're going to grab your pliers, do the same thing you did before. You're going to grab the flat of that loop that you've made, and you're going to start twisting, and you're going to push that tag end as hard as you can up into the coil that came before it. Well, this was not perfect, but bang. Now, ideally, you want to have a little bit of space between the clevis and that twist area so that you got free spin. And you see how that tiny bead is there? That's the only thing creating any friction at all on the clevis, which is going to allow for this thing to really spin and flash. Now, all we got left to do is trim up this tail. We have ourselves an inline spinner. Let me grab my scissors. Make sure you got something to collect it in. Stuff is worse than glitter at the gentleman's club. I swear, honey, I was making lures. Look at that tail. Look at it. The pink in the middle, the gold around the outside, the green tied in there, all flash. None of this crystal flash is going to retain any moisture at all, which is going to stop corrosion down the road. Make it a lot easier to recover your lure, get it dried off before you put it away. And this lure, presuming that we don't get it snagged on something, is going to last the test of time. Let's go see if we can catch something with it. Well, I'm happy to say that it's a new day and the weather is completely turned. It is beautiful outside. We are looking at 60 degrees. I am down at a small local pond, and we're going to go ahead and give this lure a shot. Just on the off chance that my color combination isn't right. We've got a pretty good sized collection of handmade lures here off to the side. We should be able to find something that works. Let's go. Let's go ahead and check and see how this lure looks in the daylight. Yeah, I think that's going to work just fine for us. This is one of those spots where you just never know what's going to happen. Water's a little dingy. I think we got enough flash here. Let's see what happens. Lure cast well. Hopefully I'll be able to get you a shot of how this thing looks coming through the water. There we go. Yeah, that's going to be just fine. The nice thing about these deep cup Colorado blades is you can work them relatively slowly. The rotation speed is slower than a traditional Colorado blade, and that really seems to make a difference sometimes. Water level is up a few inches from where it has been the last couple times I've been out here. Like I said, there's pretty good stain in this water. This gold color may not be the ticket. We'll give it a few shots. See what happens. Don't have a whole lot of battery on the GoPro. I was hoping this would be quick. I'm not convinced that this color is right for these stained water conditions. I think something a little brighter might actually be better here. Silver and chartreuse. Something along those lines. I mean, this is giving plenty of flash, but the color of that flash is probably getting drowned out by the color of the water. Yeah. We're gonna try something a little brighter. Need something a little more aggressive. That'll work. We've got a double blade. That's one of the great things too about making your own lures, is you can really get creative with it. Now this lure has a completely different design. This is much heavier wire, 2 blades, bigger hook. This is like a mini musky lure that I made specifically for snakehead, and there are some snakehead in here. We'll see what else possibly it works for. All right, there you go. Let's see what she does.
Gotta say, I sometimes miss that giddy optimism.
There's got to be something that'll work. Yep, I just got bumped immediately. This may be one of those days where the blade color really matters. Dude, they're right there. Put it right on top of them. There it is, there it is. Okay. All right, there we go. Looks like red and silver was the trick. Oh my goodness. But yeah, see, basically same build, just a different color combination, which is really easy to achieve when you got a box full of doodads and trinkets ready to make a lure at a moment's notice. Now, that's not a world beater by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll tell you what, it sure beats a skunk. Thank you very much. That's the beauty of this. I mean, you can learn how to make one configuration of lure, and for a relatively small amount of money, you can have a whole complement of that lure in whatever sizes, colors, schemes you can possibly imagine. Have them all ready to go, and then you get the fun of catching a fish on a lure that you made yourself. The only thing that's more fun is when you hand that lure over to one of your buddies and they catch a fish on a lure that you made. That is a good feeling. Well, there you have it, friends and family. A video about how to make your own inline spinners. And while I am a little bit disappointed that I couldn't produce more fish today, I will say that we have had these lures out of the water before and they have produced for us. Please enjoy some of these photos as we progress through the end of this video. I know that there are 1,000 videos just like this one about how to make these lures. I hope you explore as many of them as you want to, and I sure am grateful that you chose to watch mine. Spring is right around the corner. Really looking forward to getting back out there as soon as possible to try to get some of these hooks and these fish. If you got something out of this, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It's never too late to care again.